It's game week 3 and the expert FPL managers are actually making transfers, but who are they going for? Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan. Let's find out. So, of course, first of all, a massive thank you to the 100 experts who volunteered their information this game week, telling us who they are transferring in, who they are transferring out, if they are making multiple transfers, if they are using chips, and who are they captaining as well, all to come in this video. Let's get going. So, to start off as an overview, it looks like this is a week for transfers far more than last week, where we saw most of our experts opting to make no transfers at all. But it seems this week there's much more action around the ground. So 55% of our experts are going to be making one transfer this week, with 17% actually making two transfers, some of whom are actually taking hits in order to make multiple transfers as well. But we don't see anyone making three transfers quite yet. With only a couple of game weeks gone, there's not really enough free transfers that have been built up yet to make those big moves right now, but they will be coming very soon. And we've got 7% actually using a wild card this week as well. So even though that is not a huge number, 7% is still significant. So if you are finding that you have a lot of problems in your team and you do need to play the wild card, well, you are in good company, because 7 experts out of 100 are doing the exact same thing. And just 21% of the top FPL managers will be rolling their transfer this week, 21% on no transfer. So what are they doing? We've got a lot to talk about. First of all, I'd like to have a look at the global top picks, the most transfers in around the entire user base of FPL, to see if there's any correlation between this and our expert data. I like to see in particular if there's any players on here that maybe the overall player base seem to love, but our experts are actually ignoring, so we can try and avoid those bandwagons, those traps that the overall FPL populace are maybe going for. And you can see at the top here, guys, Madueke is the #1 transfer of the week following his hat-trick in game week 2. But he is not interesting any of our experts. In fact, only one of our experts has transferred in Madueke this game week, at least from those who are not using a wildcard. I don't have all of the wildcard data, so I can't tell you if there's any Maduekes in any wildcard teams. But in terms of those actual transfers, 1 out of 100. And that is not a trend, guys, as we know. So we have to maybe consider that maybe Madueke is a trap. If the top managers aren't going for him, maybe there's a reason for that. Now, the reasons I could come up with is because there is potential rotation risk over the longer term for Madueke. He's probably good for game week 3, but after that, we could see him in and out of the team, considering that Chelsea have so many attackers and they're looking to sign even more during the final days of the transfer window. So it's very likely that there'll never be nailed Chelsea attackers outside of Cole Palmer this season, and I think that is a little bit worrying. Also, Madueke did overperform, and there's not been too much history to suggest that he's going to score a hat-trick every week. Smith Rowe, on the other hand, the #2 transfer overall, there is some expert interest here, so that's definitely one to keep an eye on. No transfers in for Danny Welbeck. He plays Arsenal this week, so you can kind of understand why. For Cole Palmer, there is a few people going for Cole Palmer this week, particularly those wildcarding seem to be very hot on Palmer this week. Haaland, no new transfers for him, but I mean, I think most of our experts started the season with Haaland anyway, to be fair. João Pedro, well, there's some interest there. Same with Rodgers, but for Fass, no one's going for him. Raya, one person, and no one is going for Romero for game week 3 at all. Those Spurs defenders against Newcastle and then Arsenal, there's probably going to be a few goals conceded there, so you can kind of understand why. So looking through the transfers out, we've got a sample size of 72 managers making transfers without wildcards included this game week, and there is a enormous trend this week as 47 of our experts look to remove Nkunku from their teams. He was a very popular expert player to own for game week 1, but it's not gone to plan. Chelsea are signing more and more attackers, and Nkunku is finding his minutes more and more at risk, and so far, no good. And therefore, well, he's dropped down in price already to 6.4 million. Some of our experts have already moved Nkunku out before price changes. And you know what? I think anyone who owns Nkunku is probably going to be thinking about moving him on as well. So yeah, pretty obvious one there. I think we all know that Nkunku is most likely a sell this week. Solanke is second here. A few people still have him in their team. He is seeing 11 transfers out this game week, just for those who were unable to shift him last game week. And Murphy comes in here at third, 5 transfers out for him. And considering that not many experts actually owned Murphy, that's a very high percentage of Murphy owning experts selling him. Interesting. Isak, a few transfers out for him, but nothing too crazy considering he was at like 95% ownership among experts. So it's like 90% of experts will be keeping Isak this week, but a few are transferring him out. And then a few numbers here for Kwanzaa, 3 transfers out for him, obviously with his rotation risk. 2 transfers out for Eze, far lower than the overall player base, by the way, because it seems like everyone in the overall player base is transferring out Eze, but all of the top managers want to keep him around. And we're going to actually see very shortly that there might be some people transferring in Eze this week. So, yeah, maybe Eze is a buy and not a sell. Bruno Fernandes, a couple of transfers out for him, as with Mikolenko, and Brennan Johnson and Van de Ven right at the bottom there with 1 transfer out each, but not really a trend, I suppose. Let's move on. And by the way, guys, if you want to follow along with the experts every single game week, make sure you are liking the videos to show you are enjoying them, and subscribe as well. We're releasing new innovative FPL videos with loads of great graphics every single day, so you don't want to miss them. Hit that subscribe button. Let's keep moving. In terms of transfers in, we have another very strong trend, and there seems to be 2 big midfielders that the top managers are bringing in this week, and that is Rodgers. First of all, Morgan Rodgers, 30 transfers in for him. He is up to 5.1 million now, so very, very popular guy indeed. And Smith Rowe, 17 transfers in for him as well. Now, a lot of our experts actually started the season with one or both of Rodgers and Smith Rowe anyway, so this is more transfers in for him on top of those that already owned these players as well. So these are going to be in the majority, at least one of them will be in the majority of expert teams from now on. So if you don't have one of Rodgers or Smith Rowe, or maybe you're missing one of them, of the 2, well, maybe it's time to get them in. It really could be that situation. Now, I know Watkins is being sold by the masses, but our experts like this pick. Aston Villa just have phenomenal fixtures coming up, and therefore Watkins has seen 6 transfers in. He's in a couple of wild cards too. João Pedro also seeing 4 transfers in. We kind of mentioned him before. I think a few might look to bench João Pedro against Arsenal, but you know, he's better than Solanke, who is going to probably get 0 points from, I think 2 points from João Pedro is a bit better than that, assuming that he blanks. And you never know in football. Maybe he scores against Arsenal. Semenyo, a few transfers in for him as well, if you want to go a bit different on your midfielder. Same with Bailey there, 3 transfers in for him. Cole Palmer seeing 3 regular transfers in, but as I mentioned, he will be included in some wildcard teams as well. 3 for Wissa, if you want to go a little bit cheaper than Watkins, but you can't quite afford João Pedro. And finally, Eze, couple of transfers in for him as well. And yeah, breaking even, I suppose, on the sells and the buys for Eze this week. Experts can't agree on whether he is a buy or a sell, but certainly he is being kept by most that already own him. He's been brilliant so far this season. Super unfortunate to not get any returns. And only 1 defender on this list. 2 transfers in for Konsa. Rico Lewis also saw 2 transfers in, but couldn't quite fit on my graphic today. But Lewis, yeah, 2 transfers in for him. Konsa, 2 transfers in for him, if you are looking for a 4.5 million defender for the new game week. So based on that information, let's suggest some transfers. So first of all, we've got our Nkunku replacements, and I know Nkunku has already dropped in price to 6.4, but thankfully, all of the main replacements that the experts seem to be going for cost significantly less than Nkunku anyway. So you're going to be able to improve your team and free up a little bit of budget as well. Rodgers is obviously the cheapest guy. He's facing Leicester next, which is a very nice fixture indeed for him. But we also see Smith Rowe and Semenyo if you want to go for someone around that 5.5 price bracket. These are really nice options for you guys to go for as well. Smith Rowe maybe doesn't have the data behind him, but we know how talented he is, and Fulham continue to have great fixtures. And Semenyo, not quite as good fixtures as Fulham perhaps, but Semenyo is putting up some really nice underlying numbers for Bournemouth so far this season. We spoke about both of these players, or all three of these midfielders actually, in yesterday's buy, sell, keep, avoid video. So do go check out that video if you want to get all of the numbers and all of the stats behind these midfielders and what that might mean for your FPL teams going forward. For Solanke replacements, if you still have Solanke in your team, Watkins and João Pedro are the big replacements, but a little shout out for Wissa as well. Watkins might be difficult to afford as he is a little bit more expensive than Solanke, but if you could maybe downgrade another area of your team, maybe that's going to allow you to afford Watkins for your upgrade. And finally, Murphy to Rodgers. If you have Murphy, switching him to Rodgers, I think is a pretty straightforward move. But it certainly seems like, guys, out of all of the main popular players that people own, Nkunku, Solanke, and maybe Murphy are really the only three problem areas that a lot of our experts are looking to move away from. If you have other players like Isak or Eze, yeah, maybe some people might choose to transfer these players out, but on the overall, these are players that are fine to keep, and our experts are keeping these players most of the time anyway. But of course, there are a few problems. Nkunku, Solanke, Murphy, Kwanzaa from last week, if you've still got him in your team. These are players you want to transfer out. The rest of them, they're kind of more optional, right? So there you go. Those are some expert suggested transfers. Let's have a look and see who is being captained this week. So it might not be a triple captain week in Game Week 3, but the majority are still opting for Haaland in Game Week 3 for their captain. Yes, 77% trying to captain the Norwegian robot against West Ham away, hoping for some similar results to last game week, I suppose. But it's not the only option today. Salah has got 12% captaincy here among our experts against Manchester United away. Obviously, Liverpool have a fantastic record against Manchester United as well. So, yeah, there's definitely going to be an opportunity there if you have Salah and perhaps not Haaland. But even if you do have maybe Haaland and Salah, you could go a bit differential. You could go a bit different. You could go for Salah if you wanted to. And Cole Palmer, for those picking him up this week, whether that be through transfers or through a wild card, well, he plays against Crystal Palace at home, and 8% of our experts are choosing to captain him in their teams this week. And I have to say, Palmer being transferred in, being wildcarded in and captained immediately, there's clearly a growing confidence in the Chelsea man that we perhaps didn't see during pre-season among experts. And that may be due in part to that fixture in Game Week 1 against Man City. But things move very fast in FPL, and it's all about adapting our teams, moving our teams forward as we progress through each game week. And Palmer, he's the talk of the town at the moment, isn't he? As for our 1%ers, Isak and Burmo and Saka all have fairly good fixtures there as well. All very talented players. And actually, everyone on this list are penalty takers as well. So always good to captain a penalty taker because you never know when you're going to get lucky with one of those. But Isak and Burmo, Saka, no strong trends there. 1%ers, each of them. So I'm not sure we can recommend them based on our expert data. It seems to be all about Erling Haaland, and if you want to go different, Salah and Palmer are going to be your big options in Game Week 3. But that is going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here as well, and I'll see you for tomorrow's video where I'll be revealing my team changes. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.